So my talk title today is I Am Worthy of the Truth. And this is part 2 in a 3-part series based on the book, The Way of Integrity by Martha Beck. And Rev Shannon got us kicked off with part 1 last week, and she did so by defining integrity, which I'm going to do again for us all this morning because it's so important when we're talking about integrity to know what we're talking about. So in the book, Martha Beck defines integrity as wholeness, as being undivided, as being one thing. So she says it comes from a Latin word meaning intact. So we're going to talk today a little bit, and we're going to explore today the concept of speaking our truth and how speaking our truth relates to us being in alignment with who we really are. And so when we're in alignment with who we are in what we say and what we do and how we move in the world, this is integrity. This is wholeness. So when I say who we are, this can mean different things to different people. So I'm going to break it down in the simplest, easiest, basic, most foundational sense of who we are. Who we are is unconditional love. That's it. And so when we move in a way and speak in a way and kind of go about in the world aware of the unconditional love that we are, then we are in integrity. And so when we kind of back it all the way up to unconditional love, it actually makes it a lot more simpler. So when we're out of alignment and we aren't really in touch with the unconditional love that we truly are, Martha Beck talks about how we suffer. And I want to distinguish here, it's really important to distinguish the difference between pain and suffering. So pain is just an unpleasant sensation that we experience in reaction to any event. And suffering actually comes from what we choose to do, to say, and most importantly, to think about the event. So how we internalize what's happening to us is where suffering comes from. What's really cool about this book is that Martha Beck talks about actually how important suffering is in the human experience. It's a necessary part of our evolution. And so suffering, a lot of times when we learn about it on a spiritual path, we learn about it in a way where there can be some shame around it. We can feel like we aren't on the right path if we're suffering, right? But Martha Beck kind of turns this around in the book, and she talks about actually how essential suffering is to our evolution and to our integrity. I want to highlight a quote in the book where she says, "Believing things that aren't true for us at the deepest level is the commonest way in which we lose our integrity. Then suffering arises, not as punishment, but as a signal that we're being torn apart. The purpose of suffering is to help us locate our internal divisions, reclaim our reality, and heal these inner rifts." And that was a mouthful, I know, but it's so beautiful because when we're talking about integrity, we're talking about being undivided, being one thing. And so suffering points us in the direction that we are not aware of the one thing that we are, which is unconditional love. So if our actions and our thoughts and our speech don't match up what we deeply feel on our soul level to be true, then we split ourselves in two and we suffer. And again, suffering is like a signpost, it's a beacon, it's saying, hey, wake up, you're out of alignment somewhere. In order to speak our truth, we must learn to sift through the lies that we tell ourselves and the lies that we tell to other people. Oftentimes, we believe these lies, and so this can be quite a journey. I want to highlight another quote here by Martha Beck where she says, "Hiding our crimes, acting cheerful despite hidden anguish, or lying to impress people requires a sustained effort. It ties up large areas of the brain so that all of our thinking becomes foggier and slower." And I don't know if you've ever had this experience where you're trying to maintain a lie and how much energy it takes and how much you have to remember to kind of keep the lie going. Now, all of us every day tell a certain amount of lies to kind of keep up social appearances, to meet our social obligations and contracts, and just imagine how much energy that's all taking. In addition to it taking up energy and kind of, contributing to us feeling our brains kind of being foggier and slower, there's some other things that studies have shown that lying does as well. Lying and keeping secrets has been linked to high blood pressure, heart disease, certain cancers, depression, and anxiety. And this is actually really neat. One study showed that people who told just 3 fewer lies a week, just 3 fewer ones a week, reported drops in negative emotions and fewer physical symptoms like sore throats and headaches. How amazing is that, right? So there's actually a lot of studies that show that lying, can hinder our physical health and our emotional well-being. But then when we stop, we show some physical improvements. Pretty cool. So the author of this book commits to an entire year of not lying, a whole year, because she wants to see what's going to happen. What's going to happen if I do this? And I honestly can't believe this woman did it. I can't believe she did it. How hard is it not to say, oh, I'm fine, when we're feeling really awful, right? Or it's hard, right? It's hard work to have that kind of mindfulness to be able to actually represent what's true for us in a given moment. But she does it. And one of the things that she reports is that after a year, she notices that her autoimmune systems and her chronic pain improves significantly from not lying for a year. Also pretty cool. Yes, so she breaks lying up into a few different categories. And before I go into these categories, I just want to pause for a moment and say we all lie. Okay, so when I'm up here talking about lying, there's no judgment in my mind at all. I have every lie that I'm going to go through today with all of you, I've done all of them. So no judgment. We all lie. So the first type of lie that she talks about are what she calls the dark lies. These are the dark lies. These are the premeditated lies. And they often cause harm to people. And sometimes in these dark lies, we knowingly cause harm, and sometimes we don't. But these are kind of the premeditated, planned out lies. Next are the white lies. We're all familiar with that term, white lies. These are what some people call the innocent lies. These are the, how you doing? I'm great, even though we're feeling really bad that day. These are our white lies. These are the ones that we unconsciously tell to avoid slight discomfort and to be kind and polite. Someone says, oh my gosh, what do you think of this dress? And we're like, oh, I would never wear that, but good for you. It's great. So these are our white lies, right? And I still, as I'm saying these out loud, cannot believe this woman didn't do this for a year. It still amazes me, right? So gray lies are the stories we tell to preserve our concept of ourselves. These are the stories we tell to be upstanding citizens, or to feature ourselves as upstanding citizens. And one of the examples she gets is, cheating on a test. These are our gray lies. Because there's actually some gray area in cheating. On one end, does it really hurt anybody if they don't find out, or does it? There's arguments that can be made for both sides when we talk about that type of lie. So, again, we all lie. The vast majority of us have told all 3 types of lies. I know when I was younger, I stole stuff from stores. That's a dark lie. I was hurting these stores. And I want to just name that because I want everyone to just see that this is really common in our culture. And we don't often, especially when we're younger, think really about what we're doing. Research shows that the majority of people lie multiple times in a 10-minute conversation. 10 minutes. Okay, so we lie to be kind, we lie to not burden others, we lie to avoid minor conflict. Who here is terrified of conflict, right? It's something I constantly work on. Okay, so these are the lies that we do to kind of maintain order and peace every day. But what Beck tells us in this book that's so true and so important is that lying is the foundation for all other vices. Without lying, the other vices don't exist. In order to cause any type of harm, we have to be believing a lie to do so. And so this is also true when we lie to ourselves and when we lie to other people. We lie to maintain relationships, to keep our job. We might believe we can't handle a certain conflict or backlash. All of this so understandable on a human level, right? But again, when we look at the studies, it's showing us that maintaining peace and order through lying is actually hurting us. It's hurting us physically and emotionally. And in the book, she talks about the core lies, there's two, that are underneath all of our lies. And the first one that she says is the belief that I am alone. The belief that I'm doing this alone, the belief that I'm doing life alone, the belief that if I jeopardize this job, there isn't a force mightier than all backing me up to support me and presenting opportunities for myself. The belief that if I sabotage this relationship, there is nothing there to hold me and move me through into a more expansive relationship. So the foundational belief there, one of them, is that I'm alone. If we truly believe that we are navigating all of these circumstances alone, it's terrifying, right? Absolutely terrifying. Because the pressure is on us. I've got to control every little thing, if I tell the truth, to make sure I'm okay, to feel secure in what I'm doing. And if we don't understand that our integrity is backed by the most powerful force in the universe, which is pure love, then it's tough to find the courage to know and to speak our truth. But this really is the truth. Our integrity, our truth is backed by the most powerful force in the universe. And I would go so far as to say that our integrity is part of our soul's contract here. It is in full alignment with who we are meant to be moment by moment. And there's no mistake in what feels true for us at the very core of our being. So now I want to get to the part that a lot of you might be thinking about. Well, yeah, but this is, again, terrifying, and it's not easy to knowingly sabotage a relationship that I've been in for this long, or to leave a job that I've been in most of my life, right? Most of my adult life. These things are really hard. And Martha Beck says that lying is the dark counterpart to courage. When we lie, we are always afraid of something, and understandably so. The truth is not usually popular, and I know that from experience, and it can be very threatening to people, as we can see in our current political climate, right? We can very much see right now that as people are speaking truth, there is a huge amount of people that are very threatened by this, right? So the truth can be isolating at first, and when we start to speak our truth, we often meet resistance and backlash that shows up in three archetypal wounds. The first is abandonment, the second is betrayal, and the third is shame. Think of when you're a little kid. So this is how we learn how to lie, right? We learn to lie when we're kids. And think of how we learn to lie when we're kids. We learn to lie because we were shamed. We learn to lie because we were betrayed. And we learn to lie because we were abandoned. These are the three archetypal wounds that teach us to lie. And they maintain our lies as adults. None of us want to face shame. None of us want to face betrayal or abandonment. Again, it's terrifying. And if we don't know that we aren't alone, that there's this powerful, loving, beautiful, joyful presence supporting us through all of this, if we don't really know that, then abandonment, betrayal, and shame in the human experience is devastating. So I want to talk about a little bit about an experience I had where I had to speak my truth, or I would just say humanity's truth. I was in high school in the 90s, and so being in high school in the 90s, the issue of LGBTQ rights were really a hot topic in the 90s, and they are today in a different way today, but very much when I was in high school, it was very much, the idea that these relationships weren't legitimized, that they shouldn't be married, and I'm sure those of you who lived through the 90s and were paying attention saw all of this, right? So I went to a private Catholic school, and I had a lot of people around me who really believed that to be LGBTQ plus was a sin. And they felt very threatened by it. And so I would watch these boys in my school who were what we would call sensitive, or some people would say effeminate. These are kinds of the labels we give to boys who maybe have a more present and outward experience of being feminine. I would watch these boys get tortured, harassed, beat up at my high school, and it broke my heart. And I was very popular at the time. I was a sophomore in high school. I was on the soccer team. I had a lot of friends. And I was really scared to say something and to stick up for these boys, but I couldn't really watch it anymore. And so I started to stick up for them. And I started to get in between what was happening and tell people to stop. I would speak out in classrooms in Bible study. I was the annoying girl and teenager in Bible study that was like, that's not true. Just because it says it in the Bible, that doesn't mean it's true. People are hurting, and I would speak out about it. And so, as you can imagine, my popularity plummeted, really plummeted. I started to get harassed. I started to be the target of the attacks, and I was called Queen of the Gays, which I wear as a badge of honor now. But in high school, I was followed around, and it's Queen of the Gays. Here she comes, marching down the halls. And so that was my high school experience from sophomore year until I graduated. And it was so bad, I had to take a leave of absence at one point because I was so traumatized. I would have these guys come behind me and move my backpack around and chant Queen of the Gays at me. And I never let up. I never stopped speaking out for the boys that I saw getting hurt, and I never stopped saying anything. And it was a really hard experience. I went through the entire last half of my high school experience being incredibly unpopular. And the friends that were my true friends remained my friends. And I learned something really important through all of that. I learned, first of all, who my real friends were. But I also learned that I could lose everything that I thought was important. I could lose all of it and still be okay. And to learn that lesson as a teenager was such a beautiful gift, because I have walked a road of integrity as best I can since then. And every single time I see something that I think is not in alignment with unconditional love, I think of that, and I think about how I survived that, and I tell myself, you're going to be okay, because you know that what you feel is truth. So what Martha Beck talks about when we do this, when we speak our truth, when we kind of rise up against what we see is counter to unconditional love, we experience a lot of backlash, but we also experience what she calls a known misery. This known misery happens to all of us. It happens when our lives drastically change by being in integrity, and we start to mourn the life that we had. Mourning the popularity, mourning being the cool soccer playing jock with all of her friends that everybody thought was cute, mourning all of that, right? And embracing what remained for me. What was the truest form of friendship and love in my life. Beck assures us that everyone must mourn the dysfunctional life they leave behind when they come into integrity, But she also assures us that on the other side is a joy and a freedom that is unimaginable. And you are worth that. I am worth that. You watching online are worth that. Again, me going through that in high school freed me up to be in integrity in adulthood because I learned that I could do that and they could throw things at me, physically harass me, call me names, and that I myself, who I am, is intact and that I'm okay and nobody has agency over that. So I learned that at a very young age and I was blessed for that. You are all worth the joy and the freedom that we ascend to when we choose to live in integrity. And you are worth it for no other reason that you are inherently worthy of love. You are inherently worthy of joy. So this is the other core lie that is underneath all lies. One is I am alone, and the other one is I am not worthy of love. I am not worthy of love. I have to maintain this relationship because no one else is going to love me. I have to maintain my place and status in this job because no other job is going to want me, right? So this is the other core lie that is underneath all lies. It is that I am not worthy of love. This is my favorite quote in the book, and I'm going to share it with you. This is, again, by Martha Beck. You are infinitely worthy. You are infinitely precious. You have always been enough. There is no place you don't belong. You are lovable. You are loved. You are love. You are love. This, again, is who we really are. So when we speak our truth, whether we're sticking up for those who are maybe being treated unjustly or unfairly, or whether we're just saying, I don't feel well today. Whatever it is that we are doing, if it's in alignment with the truest part of ourselves, then we are in alignment with love. When we know our worth and we know who we are, there's no reason to hide anymore, and there's no reason to lie. The truth, this is a quote, by Susie Kassem. The truth will never imprison you. Only the repression of your conscience will. This is what is meant by the truth will set you free. So oftentimes when we are lying, we think that we are creating opportunities for ourselves. We think that we are freeing ourselves through the lies. But the truth is we're repressing the most powerful force within us that could give us a life far beyond our imagination. Beck recommends that we all commit to not lying. So she did it for a whole year, and I think that's tough. And if you want to do it for a whole year, please do. But what she says in the book, she calls it the No Lie Challenge. And what she says in the book is just do a minimum of a week. And if you think you want to do longer, 2 weeks or a month, but pick a certain amount of time and commit to that. And this experience, this challenge is eye-opening because what it does is it brings awareness to all the little white lies and maybe some of the gray lies that we're in every single day because we're afraid of expressing who we are. So when we commit to this, if you do a week of the No Lie Challenge, it's good to take a moment and think about where are there situations in my life where I feel like I can't be my real self? Where are there still areas where I'm still hiding? And we all have those, don't we? I know I do. I mean, I pride myself on my integrity, and I still have situations where I'm like, oh, it's not safe to say that here. Nope. And so I really, really get it. And I think that committing to a week or 2 weeks can be a liberating experience if we're up for the challenge. She also asks us to keep a journal and write about the consequences and also the improvements that you notice during that time, especially the physical improvements that we might not always think are connected to telling the truth. So she says, if you experience resistance when you're doing this, you are on the right track. Resistance from those around you means you're doing great. You are walking the path of not lying just fine. She says, if you stay on the path, you'll dissolve the beliefs that split you from your nature, and you'll reflect your deepest truth. Again, you all, every single one of you, online and here in person, you deserve to live a life undivided. You deserve to live in wholeness. This is our birthright. And we do suffer when we speak in contrast to what is true in the deepest part of us. Our integrity is, again, no mistake. It's what feels true for you. And I say feel rather than think, because our feelings get us a lot closer to our integrity than what we think. So what feels true for you, what feels right to you in your gut, for me it's in my gut, it might be in your heart, but what feels true for you is no mistake. It is 100% in alignment with who you are supposed to be in this world. It is 100% your part of your purpose here. And when yes, thank you. And when we deny our truth, we deny our purpose.
Hi, friends. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that this message supported you. We are a nonprofit, and we do all of this based solely on the gifts that you give. No amount is too small or too large. You can text to give. You can go online and check out our website. We're doing so much. You can give that way. Thank you so much for being here, for being a part of this community, and for supporting this message of bringing more light, more love, and spirit-led social action out into the world. Thank you. You're loved. So loved.